The $1 million of pocket money for this month hasn't arrived on time. I was so anxious that I was pacing around his mansion. Could it be that Marvin Foster, the young master of the capital, has gone bankrupt? After a moment of hesitation, I decided to ask Marvin directly. But just as I picked up my phone, I put it down reluctantly. Asking directly would make me seem too money-minded. I decided to drop a subtle hint to him. So when Marvin came back to the mansion after his social engagements, he saw a floor covered with flower petals as soon as he walked in. I had arranged them into the shape of the word million. He lazily tugged at his tie, raising an eyebrow slightly. "Did you do this?" I explained shyly. "Yeah, the fragrance of the flowers is delightful, and look at the unique shape I made." "Indeed, it's unique. Honey, do you like it?" I winked at him. "I like it very much." Marvin took out his phone. I was overjoyed. A transfer on the spot? Oh dear, how embarrassing. But Marvin just tossed his phone aside, walked straight towards me, bent down and kissed me. "Wishing us 1,000,000 years of happiness, love you." Huh? The corner of my mouth twitched quickly. This guy's comprehension skills must be a bit off. I clung to him and acted coquettishly. "That's right, we will be together forever." "Okay." Marvin's brows and eyes softened for a moment, as he lowered his head and kissed my face. I gritted my teeth, thinking about how to hint at him again. When he came out after his bath, I arranged the spaghetti on the plate in the shape of the number 100. Marvin sat down lazily, looked at the plate as I had planned, and his expression paused slightly. I immediately trembled with excitement. He got it. This time he got it. Then he raised his eyes to look at me, with a hint of a smile in his eyes. "This plate arrangement is nice, 100 points, I like it." After saying that, he started eating with satisfaction. I stood beside him, my fists clenched. Should I just tell him directly? But I didn't dare. I was just a mistress Marvin kept. If I angered him, I might not get my $1 million of pocket money every month. So, I always remained considerate and gentle, sensible and generous, never causing trouble. My only request for him was to stay alive. Just when I was feeling depressed, I heard the phone ring. I opened my eyes wide and saw that it was a real-time message from the bank indicating the money had arrived. I jumped up with excitement. At this moment, the man who had finished his work entered the bedroom, raising an eyebrow at my strange dance moves. "What are you doing?" I froze on the spot. "Honey, I have excess energy, just exercising a bit, haha, do you want to join me?" Hearing my dry words, Marvin smiled. "If you have so much excess energy, let's stay up all night together." With that, he took off his shirt with one hand and walked towards me. Marvin stripped off my cotton pajamas, lifted my cashmere sweater, and took off my thermal shirt. Then he took off my cotton pants, wool pants, and thermal pants. Then he was sweating profusely and fell silent. "Sylvia, are you cold?" I fawned. "No, without you in the mansion, I feel lonely and cold." This sounded a bit too flattering. I wanted to add a couple of serious compliments. But Marvin lowered his head and kissed me with a bit of guilt. "Just a few more days of work, then we can take a vacation, and I'll take you out for a break." "Sorry." The man's voice was pleasant and hoarse. How could I say no? I nodded quickly. Then, I was forced to do bad things. The next day, when I woke up, Marvin was already gone. Since the money had arrived, I decided to go shopping. Holding a cup of coffee, I strolled to a commercial street. Suddenly, I was shocked. Why is Marvin here? I saw Marvin walking towards me with a beautiful woman. The usually proud and cold man was very gentle and obedient, and occasionally chatted with the beauty. Didn't he say he was busy today? Turns out he was busy dating a beauty. Maybe my gaze was too abrupt. Marvin seemed to sense something, and looked in my direction. Without hesitation, I jumped into a nearby waist-high trash can. It stank, but not making my benefactor embarrassed or annoyed was my unshirkable duty and responsibility as his mistress. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. So, I stayed crouched in the stinking trash can, feeling dizzy from the smell. I didn't dare come out until Marvin and the beauty left. People around looked at me with eyes like I was an idiot. I calmly took out a pair of sunglasses from my dirty bag and put them on. Then I flicked my hair nonchalantly. Heh, you don't understand. He's so tired every day. What's wrong with shopping with another girl? Am I jealous? How dare I be jealous? Smart women never create trouble for themselves. I thought Marvin wouldn't be coming home tonight, so after taking a nice bath, I went straight to sleep. Just as I was dreaming about having fun with 108 male models, I suddenly felt someone kissing my face. While kissing, he mumbled, "You're sleeping quite soundly." I was startled and immediately opened my eyes, meeting Marvin's deep black eyes looking down at me. Wait, wasn't he supposed to stay out all night? Why did he suddenly come back without any notice? That was really scary. Luckily, I didn't actually invite any male models over. Even though I was cursing internally, I quickly put on a shy and happy expression. Honey, you're back. Marvin lay down, stretched out his long arm, and pulled me into his embrace, then slowly asked me a question. Did you go to the shopping district today? I think I saw you there. How could I possibly admit that? I blinked and immediately denied it firmly. No, I was at home all day. Really? Then why do you smell so bad? What have you been up to? I was awkwardly at a loss for words. I had taken 3 baths, and he could still smell it. Does he have a dog's nose or something? But I didn't panic and casually lied. I had a bowl of snail noodles. If you don't like the smell, I won't eat it anymore. Marvin smiled. Eat whatever you want, it's fine. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I almost got caught, thank goodness I'm quick-witted. To prevent Marvin from asking more questions, I hurriedly snuggled up to him and distracted him with some affection. However, the image of Marvin with that beautiful woman during the day kept floating in my mind. I secretly glanced at the man rummaging through the bedside table for his things, feeling infinitely emo. Am I done for? Is my life as a pampered mistress about to end? It shouldn't be. After all, we were classmates. Actually, no one knows that Marvin and I were high school classmates. Back then, he wasn't the prestigious young master of the Foster family. He wore a faded school uniform and sneakers with peeling soles every day. He was famously poor and also famously quiet and aloof. His handsome face always had a shadow over it, and he walked with a slight hunch. At first, some female classmates were infatuated with him, but seeing how uninteresting he was, they gradually lost interest. As for me, I was Marvin's desk mate. An unremarkable girl with an average family background and average grades, lost in daydreams every day. Dreaming of a love that would come crashing through the door and wealth that wouldn't require any effort. What's wrong with that? People need to have dreams. Without dreams, what difference is there between a person and a salted fish? The turning point in my relationship with Marvin came from a rumor at school. Someone said Marvin was the illegitimate son of a certain group's president, and recently his mother had brought him back to the Foster family. Suddenly, he had money and became part of a wealthy family, a bona fide member of the upper class. From then on, he no longer pretended and revealed his true status. I didn't believe it at first. But when I saw Marvin finally willing to replace his peeling sneakers, I felt a pang of jealousy as if I had swallowed 2 vats of old vinegar. Maybe it's not too late to go ask my mom if I'm the illegitimate child of some wealthy man? Sigh, I just don't know if my dad would have an opinion about that. However, such private matters of others were just something I overheard, and I continued daydreaming as usual. But at the age of 16 or 17, one is naturally interested in such things. Especially when Marvin started coming to school in a Cullinan, the buzz in the classroom was palpable. Even students from other classes came to the hallway windows to catch a glimpse of Marvin. After that, gossip and discussions about him became a daily occurrence during breaks, filled with curiosity and malice. Even some teachers, who used to ignore him, changed their attitudes to flattery. Marvin's expression grew colder by the day. Except for going to the bathroom, he rarely left the classroom. I admired his strong bladder control. His kidneys must be top-notch. Until one day, I was resting my eyes on the desk while Marvin quietly studied beside me. Soon, I heard a group of boys outside the window talking, probably those arrogant jocks. They bullied ordinary boys all the time, spewing vulgarities. Knowing that Marvin had become rich, their jealousy was almost palpable. The illegitimate son is actually just a pretty boy. I heard Marvin's mom made a scene at the Foster house, causing a huge ruckus. Damn, it was worth it. He probably won't even need to take college entrance exams anymore, just donate a building. After all, his mom is willing to go to any lengths. Ha ha ha. As soon as these sarcastic remarks were made, I felt the air pressure around me plummet. I seriously suspected that Marvin would coldly smash their heads in the next second. In a flash, I stood up and pulled the window curtain shut. Striking a cool pose, my movements were swift and stylish, embodying love and peace. The faces of those jocks were blocked, and their chatter stopped abruptly. I withdrew my hand with satisfaction and was about to sit down when I turned my head and saw Marvin staring at me. His eyes no longer held the usual indifference and distance, but a strange emotion. "Thank you. No need to be polite." I waved my hand nonchalantly, not thinking much of it. But Marvin began to talk to me more frequently, and I was naturally happy to chat with a handsome guy. Our relationship made noticeable progress. I enjoyed the little cakes he brought me, and he listened to my pointless chatter. One day, during a casual conversation, he asked me what my dream was. I blurted out, "To be kept by a rich man, live a life of luxury, count money until my hands cramp, and sleep until I wake up naturally." Marvin chuckled softly, seemingly amused by me. Not long after, his wealthy father sent him abroad. I heard he was attending some elite school, studying alongside princes. God, I had only heard of such settings in CEO romance novels. Gradually, our classmates, who used to gossip about him, started to brag about being his schoolmates. I thought I would never see him again, but just as I was about to graduate from university, Marvin suddenly appeared in front of me. By then, he had transformed completely, exuding a cool and noble aura, with broad shoulders and a slim waist. He said, "Sylvia, do you want to be with me?" Then he transferred $1 million to me on the spot. "I'll take care of you from now on." A series of complex emotions flashed through my mind, including what the hell, what's going on, and is this for real? Then it dawned on me. Oh! He wants me to be his kept woman. He wants to keep me. He had quickly learned the extravagant ways of foreign capitalism. I despised it, felt disdain, but then accepted the money and eagerly agreed. Yes, yes. Marvin seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, and his eyes softened unbelievably. From then on, I became Marvin's mistress. A monthly allowance of $1 million, more bags and jewelry than I could store, a drawer full of car and house keys. So, considering our high school classmate bond, he shouldn't ditch me too quickly, right? As I was feeling anxious, our high school group chat suddenly became active one day. The class president suggested having a class reunion on Sunday. Someone casually asked, "Is Marvin coming?" As soon as Marvin's name was mentioned, the group chat exploded with excitement. "Haven't you seen the news? He's in New York ringing the bell for his company's IPO. How could he come to our class reunion with an average spending of $200 per person? Does anyone have his contact info? I'd love to catch up with the entrepreneur since I used to sit behind him. Is that catching up, or are you just after his money? Don't expose me, thanks. I saw him the other day when I was passing by the Foster Group building, surrounded by bodyguards. If I had known, I would have dated him in high school. I'd be living in a luxury apartment by now." I blinked, not daring to say a word, even though I was actually living in that luxury apartment. But then someone suddenly tagged me. "Sylvia, do you have any contact with Marvin Foster?" It was Blair, our class's art committee member. Blair was initially very interested in Marvin's cold demeanor. But later, seeing that Marvin was poor and never paid her any attention, Blair disdainfully distanced herself from him. The boys in the class, who liked Blair, naturally followed her lead in ostracizing Marvin. Later, when they found out his father was a famous entrepreneur, they regretted it immensely, beating their chests in frustration. Unfortunately for Blair, Marvin became even colder towards her after realizing her materialistic nature. Unexpectedly, after all these years, she still couldn't get over him. And understandably so. Anyone who missed out on such a wealthy heir would probably wake up in the middle of the night and slap themselves silly. I clicked my tongue in amazement and naturally denied it. We're not close, no contact. If I said we were in touch, she might strangle me through the internet. Naturally, Blair stopped bothering me and instead started joking around with the other men in the group chat, occasionally inquiring about Marvin. I couldn't be bothered to watch, so I directly video called Marvin. Thinking that a man currently abroad definitely wouldn't come to such a reunion, I didn't mention it to him. On the day of the official gathering, I happily left the house. I dressed quite simply and plainly. The old classmates assumed I had nothing much going for me, exchanged a few casual words, and then turned to fawn over Blair. Blair came from a good family and was also very pretty. A typical wealthy beauty. However, Blair kept glancing towards the door of the private room, as if eagerly waiting for someone. A man teased with a hint of jealousy. "Hey, who's our class beauty waiting for?" Could it be Marvin? Blair blushed. "Don't talk nonsense." "Who's talking nonsense?" "I heard you ran into Marvin abroad a few days ago." "So, did any sparks fly?" "No, we just caught up a bit. I invited him to the class reunion. He said he'd come." "Oh really?" Hearing this teasing banter, I felt a bit out of place. Unable to resist, I secretly took out my phone and sent a message to my benefactor. "Are you coming to the class reunion?" "Yeah, I didn't get a chance to tell you. I finished my meeting early and came back to the country. I'll be there soon." "Oh, I thought you wouldn't come." "How could I not come if you're there?" "Save me a seat next to you." I frowned. "Is that appropriate, honey?" "Why not?" I felt a bit shy. "Boss, our relationship isn't suitable for others to know about. It would harm the current harmonious social atmosphere." But sensing Marvin's slight displeasure, I quickly agreed, "Okay, honey." After putting away my phone, I felt anxious. Given Marvin's current persona as a cold and aloof CEO, he wouldn't necessarily say or do much in front of everyone. At most, we'd have a few intimate exchanges. If others asked, I could use the excuse of catching up with an old desk mate to cover it up. Perfect. But reality is rich, and ideals are skinny. Soon, Marvin arrived. The classmates respectfully and eagerly greeted him, while Blair's coquettish glances almost gave her eyelid cramps. Amidst all this attention, Marvin naturally parted the crowd, naturally came to me. Then naturally lifted my chin, and finally naturally lowered his head to kiss me on the lips. His voice was gentle and low. "I missed you, baby." A true zero-frame start, leaving no escape. My face instantly turned as red as a monkey's bottom, and I stiffly shifted my gaze. I saw all the classmates behind Marvin were dumbfounded, their jaws practically on the floor. Well then. If I said we were just old classmates who kissed, would you believe me? The party officially started. The atmosphere in the private room could be described as eerie. Sitting next to Marvin, I felt like I was on pins and needles, with thorns on my back and a bone stuck in my throat. But Marvin seemed to be in a great mood, constantly putting food on my plate. "Eat this, you love it." Okay. "Why is your face still so red? What do you think?" I glared at him resentfully, speaking as quietly as possible. Marvin seemed puzzled but still raised his hand to pat my head. At this moment, the class president cleared his throat, looking at us with an awkward yet polite gossiping gaze. "Marvin, are you and Sylvia dating?" "Dating my foot." Before I could figure out how to deny it, Marvin beside me spoke calmly. "Yes, I'm her boyfriend. I pursued her. We've been dating for almost 2 years." With that, the people at the table looked at me with an indescribable expression. Not to mention Blair. Her glare could almost slice me into sashimi. I couldn't care less about her and looked at Marvin in a daze. Boyfriend? Pursued me? My brain shut down instantly, like being hit by a long-awaited apple and getting stunned. But my professional instincts as a mistress quickly made me realize something. My mind cleared instantly. No. Revealing the relationship between a benefactor and a mistress would harm his image and could lead to malicious rumors, damaging his career. Claiming a romantic relationship was different. It could even benefit his career. Geez, he should have given me a heads up. Playing the girlfriend role costs extra, this needs additional payment later. Luckily, I'm quick-witted. I swiftly snapped back to reality, obediently leaning against his shoulder, continuing the act. Yes, when we get engaged, you all must come. The old classmates hadn't reacted yet, but Marvin was stunned first. He was holding my hand, and his grip suddenly tightened. He looked down at me, his eyes shaking with waves of surprise and joy. Are you serious? Look at this acting, so sincere, so incredulous, so touching. I shyly nodded, yes. Marvin smiled. His beautiful eyes were filled with overflowing affection. After this class reunion, my phone suddenly became very busy. Many people tried to get close to me. Some openly and some subtly asked me to pass messages to Marvin seeking cooperation, or to borrow money from me. I didn't respond to any of them and turned back to my own emo state. Because the scene of Marvin shopping with that beautiful woman kept replaying in my mind. With him acting like this with me, when we inevitably part ways in the future, it will be awkward for both of us. Our options for retreat would naturally be fewer. I buried my face in the pillow but soon lifted my head as usual. It doesn't matter, as long as the money is in place. I definitely won't be a cold fish or a difficult mule to coax. Maybe because he saw how well I was playing my role, Marvin was extremely pleased. He suddenly bought me a lot of bags, jewelry, and clothes, and added more money to my card. Every day, I lay in bed, looking at the real-time bank messages, unable to hide my joy, smiling so hard my gums showed. Just as I was daydreaming about using this money to keep a few male models who looked like Marvin, an unexpected guest arrived at the villa. A beautiful woman with an air of elegance. The same one who was shopping with Marvin. Jesus. No one said there would be a hair-pulling session today. Should I pull or not? If I win, Marvin would be furious and cut my money. If I lose, I'd end up in the hospital feeling humiliated. I sat opposite her, feeling helpless, while the elegant beauty curiously examined me. Her demeanor made it seem like she was the real owner of this house. Are you Sylvia? Yes. Marvin has been hiding such a beautiful treasure for so long, and now he says he wants to get engaged to you. That's quite surprising. I forced a laugh. Well, we're just playing around, don't worry, I'll leave him soon. The elegant beauty paused. Leave him? I hurriedly swore my loyalty. If you disagree, I'll definitely leave. The elegant beauty was shocked. She quickly took out a stack of what looked like checks from her bag. How much do you want? Just write it down. Don't take it the wrong way, I don't mean to insult you. I looked at her, then at the checks. Then I sighed softly. Who would understand, my friends? For this historic moment, I've memorized the process of cashing checks backwards and forwards. Finally, it's come in handy. Finally! I've been insulted. I pretended to resist. Miss, this is really not right. The elegant beauty insisted on putting it in my hand. There's nothing wrong with it, this is my compensation and gift to you. Just write it down. All right. On the surface, I appeared reluctant, but inside, I was overjoyed. Then I'll take the money and leave. Leave to where? A cool, familiar male voice sounded at the door. I didn't know when Marvin had returned home. He happened to walk in on the scene of my transaction with the elegant beauty. In a moment of life and death, my survival instincts kicked in. I immediately changed my tone, putting on a look of unwavering loyalty. Can my years of feelings for Marvin be measured in money? How vulgar. Even if you throw 100 million at me, I won't leave him. I, Sylvia, love him. Looking at my statement, it was no surprise that the elegant beauty would be furious. I was ready to slip away at any moment. But the elegant beauty seemed a bit confused and said, I didn't ask you to leave him. She then turned to look at Marvin, who was walking over, with a helpless smile. Brother, does your girlfriend misunderstand something? Brother? She called Marvin brother? I stood there with a stiff neck, my mind momentarily feeling exiled. Marvin had already walked over by this time. He bent down, pinched my face slightly but firmly, and spoke in a helpless tone. "This is my sister, my half-sister. What are you spacing out for? Call her sister." Having been with Marvin for almost 2 years, I naturally knew he had a half-sister. This sister treated him very well and did not mistreat him because he was an illegitimate child. On the contrary, she helped and took care of him in every way. Marvin genuinely regarded her as his own sister, but every time he wanted to introduce me to her, I always refused with various excuses like my grandma's wedding or my grandpa's school dismissal. After all, what kind of mistress meets the parents? Isn't that just asking to be slapped? But whenever Marvin heard my refusals, he would go to the study alone in a bad mood. Afterward, he would come back to the room and bully me. It was as if he was eager to confirm that I was his possession. In short, I never understood what kind of anger he had. Now, with his sister suddenly showing up, I thought it was the legitimate wife coming to show dominance, and I made a big mistake. While I was so embarrassed that I wanted to dig a hole and bury myself, Marvin's sister smiled warmly. "I just came to see what Marvin's treasure looks like. I had no intention of making you leave with money." It was my poor expression. "The check is also a gift from me for our first meeting. As long as you stay with my brother, this is just a small amount." I nodded and bowed, boasting wildly, "Yes, yes. You are right, I will definitely stay with Marvin. He is the wind, I am the sand. He is the toothpaste, I am the brush. He is the melon vine, I am the melon. If he doesn't love me, I'll die." In short, there's no time to explain, the child needs a father. Marvin gently tapped the back of my head, but his lips couldn't help but curl up slightly. "Stop being silly." Marvin's sister stayed for a while longer and then left. I stared intently at the check on the table. Since it was a gift for me, could I take it? I reached out tremblingly to take it, but halfway through, I paused strangely. No. I can't take money from Marvin's family. This was given to his girlfriend by his sister, and I am just a mistress. I will leave eventually and be abandoned. If I take it, the debt will never be clear in the future. If I don't take it, there won't be any trouble, and I can feel I did right by Marvin. I reluctantly stepped back, no longer looking at the check, and slumped down. When Marvin returned after seeing his sister off, he raised an eyebrow at my pitiful appearance. He picked up the check and looked at it seriously. "Why didn't you take the money?" I mumbled, "I can't take it." Marvin glanced at me indulgently. "Why can't you take it?" "Take it and spend it," he said, stuffing it into my hand. I held the check in a daze, wanting to ask him something, but Marvin directly picked me up. Whispering in my ear, he said, "I'm so happy." All the words I wanted to say were stuck in my throat. I obediently raised my face to kiss him, then smoothly tucked the check into my pocket. As long as he was happy. He was the most important. Because he was the most important person to me. Throughout history, the first rule for a kept woman is to never develop genuine feelings for her benefactor. This is an ironclad rule, to be remembered as if etched into one's lungs by smoke. I didn't break it. Because I liked him before I became a kept woman. While others were complaining about why the lemonade at the Snow King shop near the school gate had increased to $5, I had already fallen for my aloof and handsome desk mate, Marvin. At that time, he hadn't been recognized by his wealthy family yet. But I had a keen eye and could tell at a glance that he was a rare and exceptional talent with immense potential. However, back then, he maintained a cold and indifferent demeanor, making him difficult to approach. After he returned to his wealthy family, I knew even more clearly that there was no hope. Although our relationship gradually grew closer, I still adhered to my principles, playing the role of an ordinary and amusing desk mate. I studied hard, hoping to see him again in the future. But when he left, I completely gave up on that idea. Then, unexpectedly, things took a turn for the better. Marvin wanted to keep me. If I accept the money, I can stay with him. If I don't accept it, I can only watch other women stay with him. Unless I was completely out of my mind, I would obviously choose the former. So, a kept woman it is. As long as he continued to give me $1 million each month, it meant I could stay with him. I was happy and content just to have some fleeting moments with him. But Thinking about the check in my pocket, my heart felt heavy and sour. Once his family got involved, our relationship might end even sooner and faster. After all, secrets can't be kept forever. Marvin suddenly became very busy. He left early and returned late every day. But at the same time, he started taking me to gatherings with friends and family. I even attended several high-end business parties with him, although I ended up stepping on his feet quite a few times. I met his wealthy father and his leisurely mother several times as well. Marvin told everyone we were getting engaged. I smiled so much that my face stiffened, but inwardly I was anxious. No way. Marvin must be out of his mind. How was he going to handle this widespread announcement? He couldn't possibly replace me with another fiancé at the engagement party, right? Even if I didn't care about my face, what about his? After much thought, I decided to do something while there was still time to salvage the situation. Run. Take a cab and run. Marvin would be angry, but he probably wouldn't hold a grudge against me, a kept woman, for too long. He would spend more time finding a suitable girl to marry. So, one day, while Marvin went to the company, I started packing my things. I didn't take any of the expensive clothes, bags, or jewelry. The millions he had given me over the years had accumulated to quite a lot. I only took a small amount, equivalent to the city's minimum wage, as my hard-earned money. What about it? Even if I didn't achieve anything, I did work hard. Even if Marvin wanted to sue me, I was acting within the law. After packing everything, I was ready to leave. But as I passed by Marvin's study, I paused strangely. After following him for almost 2 years, I rarely entered his study. Sometimes, when I did go in, Marvin would immediately cover my eyes in a panic. I guess there were important documents inside, and it would be inappropriate if I accidentally saw some business secrets. So, I never went in. But since I was leaving today, I thought it wouldn't hurt to take a look and grab a photo of him as a keepsake. So, I carefully pushed the door open. At first glance, the decor was quite simple and cold, probably the typical style of a dominant CEO. At second glance, wow, there were so many candid photos. Marvin was a pervert. Wait, something was off. Like an old man on the subway staring at his phone, I scanned the densely packed photo frames on the wall. Coincidentally, the person in all these photos was me. Laughing secretly, eating secretly, being lazy secretly. They could all be described as creepy. But it was clear from the photos that the person who took them was meticulous and affectionate, with a pathological possessiveness. Standing at the doorway, my mind was momentarily kicked by a donkey. When my brain finally cleared, I realized an astonishing fact. That is, Marvin likes me. And I thought he was just keeping me, planning to run away now. Ugh. A chill ran down my spine. If Marvin found out the truth, I guessed he would give me a lesson with a belt dipped in iodine, disinfecting while beating. When Marvin came home in the evening, I was shamelessly sprawled on the couch watching a trashy TV drama. "Honey, you're back?" Usually, I would eagerly greet him. Rarely did I act so lazily. Marvin raised an eyebrow, walked over, and naturally sat down next to me. Probably because one of his business partners or colleagues had been smoking today, he had a slight scent of smoke on him. It wasn't unpleasant. In fact, mixed with the scent of the same shower gel I used, it was quite refreshing. "Yeah, you didn't go out shopping today?" I played with his fingers. "No, I didn't feel like going alone. I'll go with you the day after tomorrow. We can also check out engagement rings." "Sure, I want one with a big diamond." "Whatever you want." Marvin loosened his tie and pulled me into his arms. I could faintly hear his heartbeat, fast and affectionate. Marvin really treated me well. I was just too foolish, overthinking things and almost missing out on him. But it's okay, the Mistress Act has quietly ended, and no one knows but me. But people always fear what they dread the most. A few days later, Marvin couldn't find an important document. He remembered there were cameras in the study, so he checked to see where he might have left it. So, he turned on the surveillance. Before long, I was startled awake by a loud noise while I was napping in the room. Groggily opening my eyes, I saw Marvin standing by the bed. Sleepily, I said, "Honey, are you done? Can we sleep now?" He asked me, "Did you go into my study?" I opened my eyes and saw Marvin looking tense. I reached out and hooked his waistband. I went in for a bit, sorry. No need to apologize, it's just. He hesitated. It's okay, I like being filmed by you, just make sure it looks good, I have a reputation to uphold. I reassured him nonchalantly. Marvin sighed in relief. That's good. Seeing him relax, I turned over, intending to go back to sleep. But then a warm body pressed against mine. Marvin asked, I also saw a scene in the home surveillance where you were dragging a suitcase. Where were you planning to go? You want to break up with me? My eyes snapped open. I turned back, trembling. Honey, I was just dragging it for fun. Tell the truth. If I didn't say anything, at most, he'd just scold me a bit. If I told him, he'd definitely kill me. Weighing the pros and cons, I decided not to say anything. Marvin raised an eyebrow. He reached out and opened the bedside drawer, searching for some tools. I caved. After hearing me out, Marvin laughed coldly, each laugh more chilling than the last. He patted my face and said sinisterly, Little Mistress, get up early tomorrow and go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. For what? To elevate your status. Marvin Foster's side story. Sylvia helped me. She pulled the bed curtains, shielding me from all the gossip. It was the first time someone did that for me. Not the previous disgust, nor the current flattery. I was surprised. I didn't expect my little desk mate to be so bold. This incident made me truly notice Sylvia. She loved to laugh. But sometimes she would zone out, then suddenly give a sly smile. She loved reading boys' love manga, the explicit kind. She loved eating little cakes. She seemed carefree, but she was quite good at her studies. Like a cunning little cat. The more I got to know her, the more I couldn't help but focus on her every side. But I couldn't do much, only bring her some little cakes to eat. Because I was going abroad. My sister treated me very well. She convinced our father to send me abroad so that I could gain experience and come back stronger, otherwise the board wouldn't accept me, an illegitimate child. I agreed. Youthful feelings had to bow to reality. The day before I left, I told Sylvia. After hearing it, she seemed stunned. Will you come back? I said, yes. She said, then you must succeed in your studies and make us rich together, haha. I wanted to pat her head but held back. In the following years, I had no time to return home. I used to scoff at the plot of domineering CEOs not returning home for years when discussing romance novels with Sylvia. Now that it happened to me, I realized it was realistic literature. There was too much to do and too much pressure. I could only follow Sylvia's life through her social media, watching her study, work part-time, and post silly jokes. Occasionally, during holidays, I would muster the courage to send her a greeting message. She would reply quickly. Polite and distant. It was like scratching an itch through a boot, making my possessiveness grow increasingly twisted. I had someone secretly take photos of her to see how she was doing. Soon, I returned home, and my sister helped me get into the top level of the company. The first serious thing I did was find Sylvia. Then I pursued her. The pursuit was unusually smooth, and Sylvia loved me deeply. We were sweetly together. To prevent her from working part-time and getting tired, I gave her a lot of pocket money. But she still didn't want to meet my family, as if she didn't want to be with me forever. I was so angry that I wanted to tie her down and force her to marry me. But I couldn't. I would scare her. I could only secretly take a lot of photos of her. She was mine. One day, out of the blue, Sylvia said she wanted to get engaged. Oh, even though she was shameless, she was still so shy. I was overjoyed. But I didn't expect that what I thought was a sweet romance was just her Mistress script. Funny. Angry and funny. Then I'll let her experience the real Mistress script. Which is, marriage.